I move that we open our meeting for the regular session of Hugh Cargill Trust on the 14th.
Thank you, Lucy. Second?
Second.
And thanks, Catherine.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Excellent. Well, welcome, Kristen and Jill. Thanks for coming today. Sorry, I have been fighting a cold, so I'm going to be not as sharp as I usually am. But anyway, I think we can go ahead. Oh, we can't do the approval of minutes actually because.
I see Hester
Here.
here.
Oh, where? Where are you, Hester?
In name. No photo.
She said that she's not able to unmute or turn her video on.
Oh, okay.
I think the chat is working directly to me as the host, so I just got those messages.
Okay. I just opened the chat, but I don't see
There she
anything.
is.
Yeah,
Hester.
Whatever somebody did fixed it. Thank you.
We all just thought of you, sent lots of positive
Good
thoughts.
magic. Great.
Well, thank you. So, thanks everybody for coming today. I wanted to start off by welcoming the Jill and Kristen who are here visiting. I think Julie's going to join us also. We'll see. And we were I am really struggling with this cold, actually. Sorry. I will do my best. I may hand it off to you, Bob. We'll see.
Do we want to approve the treasurer's report and the minutes meeting first?
Sure. I just wanted to do a quick welcome first.
Oh,
But yes.
okay, all right.
Yep, no,
Okay.
that's fine. And we'll get into the new member interest in later in the agenda. So yes, Bob, let's do that first. The approval of the minutes. I think Hester, you sent them out quite a while ago, and they were, yeah, and I don't think there were any comments unless someone has any last minute ones.
No.
I don't have any.
Oh, it takes a year to figure out how to do these, but now I got it.
It's true. I remember that. Well, because you know why? Because at the same time, you're a brand new member learning all the things. So
Yeah.
there's a lot. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Move to approve my own
I
minutes.
move we approve. Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And the treasurer's report.
Okay,
Catherine.
two comments. The first is that the Simon Cataldo's earmark, that $5,000 gift we got from the state, has been fully allocated. So Shannon has taken care of that. We don't need to be concerned about that anymore. It doesn't change our accounting, but it has been settled. The second thing is, this morning I was looking at the treasurer's report, and the tax relief payments for the year didn't make sense. I went back in the folder, and it looks like the check in January, a check was written to the town for about $13,000 for that section of the tax relief payments, and it didn't get into my register. So Shannon is going to put it into the register, and I will update the numbers. What it means is that the numbers that you have in front of you, about $13,000, the tax relief fund should have $13,000 less in it. All the checks went out as they should have. It just didn't get into the register.
Right.
So I think I will redo this, and I think we can approve it at the next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Shannon.
So I have a comment.
Yes.
Do you think, do you think we should write a letter to Simon Cataldo and thank him? And so that he will pass it on to the state and say how appreciative we are of this grant to help our important mission, and et cetera, et cetera. It can't hurt, and it might come up again another year. And so they'll know that we didn't just go into a bucket and we paid no attention. So I think some sort of gracious thank you is in order.
I think we did that already.
Oh, you did?
Shannon?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we did that already as like a thank you when it was granted.
Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure.
I had two really minor comments. The BOS-TRF, is that Board of Selectmen Tax Relief Fund?
That is the tax relief fund, yes.
Can we change that to SB and then PTRF?
Can you say that again, please?
Sorry, I'm sorry about the dogs.
No.
I just wanted to update that to be Select Board, SB, and then Property Tax Relief Fund, so PTRF, because we've made that change everywhere else.
Right.
Okay,
That's all.
will
Thank
do.
you. So a motion to approve the treasurer's report?
Oh, I don't think you should until I
Oh,
get the
because-
proper
yes.
number in it.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry about that, Catherine. All right. So. Can you hear my dogs or is it just me?
Just you.
Just-
All right, good. Yes, someone's pulled in the driveway next door and they're making a racket. All right, so next on our agenda is committee membership. So this year, Bob's term is ending. Tell me how many years you've been on the committee, Bob. I think it's a lot, max, right?
6, yeah.
6, yeah.
6 years, yeah.
And
So lot of tears coming down.
It's a big deal, and you've done an incredible job with our property tax relief fund and the annual appeal every year. And I just wanted to really acknowledge what you've contributed to the group. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob.
I'm glad to do it.
And you're also glad to keep joining us every month until we fill your seat, which I wanted to acknowledge as well and really appreciate.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you. So this year we
I have some great replacements, it looks like, so great candidates, so I'm so happy for that.
Yes, and that's actually what I wanted to talk about. Typically, a committee has to really sort of pound the pavement to get new folks to be interested in joining. And this particular opening, we have 3 incredible people who are interested. So I wanted to just start out at the very beginning to let you know that this is not about figuring out who's the best fit for the spot as much as it is figuring out well, best in terms of, like, it's not a competition. We don't look at your resume. We don't, you know, the most important factors, what I really want to say is the desire to serve the town, which is really a big deal. And I've done it for a long time, starting on the Board of Assessors and the Finance Committee and the Planning Board. So it really makes a huge difference to the town when people step up and do that. So I just wanted to thank you for that. So whoever it is that ends up in Bob's spot is going to be an incredible addition. And unfortunately, we only have 1 opening, although next year I think we have another. So, okay. So I thought maybe it'd be nice if Kristen and Jill, you had a chance to just say hello and let us know a little bit about you, and then we would really love to answer any questions you might have or comments that you have before we go into the rest of our meeting. Who wants to start?
I'm happy to start. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for welcoming us both. Let's see. So I've been in town for over 30 years. I have just completed a 7-year stint working with the Board of Health, where I shared with many of you that, I chaired it during some of our more fun times during COVID. So that was an interesting challenge in terms of public health. When we study public health, we actually really don't study kind of that emergency response. So it's a fascinating time to be in that world. I also, during that time, was on the board of Open Table, where we saw a dramatic increase in our, in the number of people who were coming to our doors, and actually our doors were closed. So I was pretty responsible for changing our whole method of distributing food, because our executive director at the time was on sabbatical. Very timely, she went on sabbatical February 1st, and we shut down our meal program on March 12th. When I was at Open Table, we had a discretionary fund, which we kept really quiet, and it was giving away those same types of funds that Hugh Cargill does. So worked a lot with people to help them buy mattresses or repair their cars or pay a medical bill, all very quiet. So all of those experiences really have exposed me to a lot of the need in this town. I've done a lot of needs assessments, both with the Board of Health as well as the Community Benefits Committee over at Emerson Hospital. So well-versed in issues of economic insecurity, crisis, and the community. As I said, I've been here for over 30 years. So would love to continue serving it in some way or another. And welcome to have you ask me questions if you have any more. Thank you.
I had the pleasure of speaking earlier with Jill, and she was lovely, obviously well prepared, would be a great addition, and thanks for coming this morning.
Thank you. Yes, I've enjoyed meeting all of you. Bob, I haven't met you, but feel like I probably have overlapped with you at some place or another.
Well, Catherine and I had the pleasure of talking with Jill extensively as well, and found her a delight in her experience and wisdom and energy and interest important to our mission.
Is the meeting time any problem for you at all? For Jill?
No, I do public health consulting still, but as a consultant, it's often on my schedule. So that's a good thing. I am working with the health department on a project right now to spend down the municipal opioid settlement money. But those meetings are Monday afternoons.
Okay.
Kristen?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Nice to see you all again, or sometimes for the first time. My name is Kristen Hines-Perkins. I have lived in town for just about 20 years now. I have kids in the Willard School. I'm about to go to middle school. And in terms of town engagement, I have been on the board of the Concord Carlisle Community Chest for 8 years now. I'm finishing up my second and final term as co-president. So I see the work there is very aligned with the Cargill Trust. We have an arm of our funding is the When in Need Fund, which operates much like the Trust does in terms of emergency relief funding. So I have a lot of familiarity with that, and also just being involved in the Chest for so many years. Have a lot of familiarity, again, much like Jill, with the economic insecurity and other insecurity in town. It would be a huge privilege to serve on the Trust for me. I think, told everybody on this call that as I wrap up my tenure at the Chest, I'm really looking to remain engaged with the town, and hopefully on a committee would be my preference. And then especially with the Trust being so aligned with the work that I have previously done, I'm really looking forward to continuing that service. In my real life day job, I am a development officer for the Bill Clinton Foundation. So also have an extensive background in fundraising for most of my career.
Thanks. Kristen and I also spoke, and it was delightful. I'm sitting here feeling very relieved and happy that I don't have to make a decision about this.
I see that Julie just joined us. Hi, Julie. Oh, we can't hear you. You're muted.
Sorry about
There you
that. Good morning. Sorry, I'm a few minutes late. Just getting back from the kids' school.
So just to bring you up to date, we were just talking about how we have incredible candidates for this only one opening. And Jill and Kristen were just introduced themselves, talked a little bit about their backgrounds and their experience with this, I'm sorry, their experience living in the town and kids in schools and things like that, work experience. And also just to bring you up to date, because this is I don't want anyone to feel in any way awkward about having to choose between such excellent people. I know that if I were in your position, when I joined, there was only one opening and there was only me. So I didn't feel any concern about the process, or I don't know. I just want all of you to know that we really appreciate your interest in serving the town and how important it is to the town that people do step up. So just with that, if you want to just say hi, Julie, and tell us a little bit about yourself, that would be awesome.
Sure. So I'm Julie Lynch. We live in West Concord. I have 3 kids, all currently at Thoreau Elementary, with one headed to the middle school next year. We've been in Concord for, it's going to be 13 years this summer, which is crazy, but awesome. And we love living here. It's been great. And so when Elizabeth shared a little bit about this committee, it felt like a really good fit for me in terms of a way to give back to the town and the community that we live in, and serve in a way that really kind of is of interest to me and that I feel like I've got some experience. So I'm a social worker by training. I'm at home with my kids now, so I'm not actively working as a social worker now, but my experience prior to starting a family was mostly in schools or in connection with kind of kids' education. I have a master's in social work and education, and the education piece was more because I think education is such an important aspect of kids being able to fulfill their potential. And a lot of times they have needs that get in the way of that. And so really trying to be able to kind of merge those two fields was really important to me. And what I love about this committee is that it's also recognizing that there's barriers in the way of people in town kind of reaching their full potential and being able to be their best selves. And they just need a little help. And sometimes that little help can get them over the hump to kind of get back on track or be in a better place so that they can give their full selves to life and family and all of the things that are important to them. So just felt like a really good fit. That whole piece of the families and the kids that I worked with, a lot of what I did was kind of recognizing what the needs were and what the strengths were, and then trying to connect them with resources or support that could help get them where they wanted to be and kind of go after the goals that they had set for themselves. So I appreciate the opportunity to be considered, and just appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Does anybody have questions about our committee, or do any of the committee members have questions for Kristen and Jill and Julie?
I asked Jill about the time, but Kristen and Julie, are you able to devote the time, do you think? I know you have young children, and I think generally we meet on like once a month, but there's a lot of other time involved. But I know you probably have already done a lot of committee work where you had to do spend some time as well. So just asking, because it is sometimes a burden with the time that's required.
Yes, for me, I think it's just a matter of knowing. I like that the committee times are set, so I know those are on my calendar and I work around that, and then fitting in additional time and responsibilities, kind of similar to what I do with other committees. I serve on the board of the organization, the mentoring organization that I worked at prior to having a family. So that obviously has it has standard board meetings, but there's a lot of work that I do with the executive director in between, and with my co-chair for the board. So just think that the work of the committee is important. So I would fit it in.
Okay.
And
Yes.
as, you know, I talked about in some conversations with some of you who are interested, I think it really depends on what your role is on this committee, how much extra time it takes.
Mm.
You know, it's variable.
Kristen, you were gonna say something? Or-
Just that similarly to Julie and Jill, I would have no problem fitting it in. My work on the community chest has been essentially another full-time job. So as I roll up there, I am actually looking forward to a little more free time, but it's never a problem to prioritize it. And I work remotely, so it's, you know, fitting in another Zoom meeting or extracurricular work is not a problem at all.
Okay.
So I actually have a question for Elizabeth is how does a choice get made?
Yeah. So the today it's really introductions, the opportunity for Kristen and Jill and Julie to see what we do, for us to ask questions, for them to ask questions. I think because we have some great candidates and some of you haven't yet had a chance to meet in person with them, we're going to at least go another meeting to have the time to do that. We did have a fourth candidate who unfortunately works on Tuesday mornings, and I think that's sort of the reason Bob was asking about availability. And she doesn't work always on Tuesdays, so I told her that, you know, she should certainly express her interest again next year. We do this process through our public meeting. We don't do it during our executive session, so it'll either be at the next meeting if everyone's had a chance to sort of meet the three of you, and then there'll just be feedback and discussion among us. I think based on what we've already learned so far, we could almost just, you know, toss a coin if a coin had three sides. It's just such a great fit by all of you. So that's the process, Hester. We'll probably at our next meeting, I think, make a decision, and I guess within the answer to your question, I did have a question for the three of you, Jill and Julie and Kristen, which is, are there any other committees that you were considering? Because if you don't end up on Hugh Cargill and you end up on another committee, then I want this to come across correctly. We've lost the opportunity to add you to ours for whatever term that other committee has. So I guess my question is, would you join another committee? Would you wait for another opening on our committee next year? Like, what would be your interest in other town groups or other volunteer opportunities?
I can say that I would be honored to serve on any town committee, but this is the one that I would really prioritize. I did not indicate interest in other ones, and would be, you know, thrilled to serve this year. I'm thrilled to serve in subsequent years if the opportunity arose.
I'm in a similar position. I haven't applied to other committees within the town. I have other, you know, volunteer commitments, but it's not a one-off, you know, it's not a one or nothing. I mean, it is one, you know, this is the only town one, but it's not all or nothing. So I'm open to other opportunities outside of here, but within the town, this is it.
I'm also in a very similar boat. It's the only committee that I indicated, and I think, you know, for me, it's a great fit, and I'd be happy to serve now or in the future. But this kind of felt like the right path for me. This committee.
You're just not making this any easier, are you?
Well, I have a question for Jill, and this is just, when we met, you spoke about the opioid dollars that are being spent, and you would be bringing in another town social worker of some kind.
Yes.
I wondered if you would expand on that, just because it's of general interest to our committee, what that position would be.
Sure. I mean, it's a town-wide social worker to fill the void that for people who are not within the school system or not served by the Council on Aging, that can provide some short-term mental health care and referrals elsewhere. So the town has right now over $150,000 available to spend on substance use prevention that comes through the municipal opioid settlements. Because we're fortunate to not have a huge number of opioid overdoses in our community. And over the years, there's been about 6 in, let's say, the past 5 years that are opioid specific. But there's other mental health crises that we're all aware of, I think. And you know, because we're fortunate not to have the opioid issue, but we have other substance use issues. So the social worker will actually be an employee of Elliott Community Health, which provides a lot of mental health care in the community. So I know that for the town, it kind of takes away some of the burden of paying some of the benefits, but it's basically a position that's designated for the town that will just be supervised and paid through Elliott. And they haven't filled the position yet, so I can't be more specific about how they're serving people and what limitations there are and what they're providing, but it will be available to the general population. Honestly, they're having a little trouble recruiting because there's such demand for mental health clinicians in town or everywhere that even with decent salary, it's, you know, there's a lot of competition for these people. So I don't know when it will happen.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I look forward to meeting Julie. I
Mhm.
thoroughly enjoyed Kristen and Jill, and so I would just say the role I've had the past few years is intake, and it's pretty busy.
To put it mildly, one might say.
I got a call last night late, and I got a call early this morning from the town and helping someone. And so I respond immediately, always, because these people are in need, not to everything, but many of them. So it's just one position that is quite busy, I would say. And we've talked about maybe having 2 people do it. It's they asked me you'll be amused by this morning. An applicant asked me where our headquarters were. And headquarters, and your offices. And I said, well, we don't have an office. And she said, well, there must be an office because I was told. And I said, oh, you mean my desk? So that's part of intake is your desk. It has a few bits of paper on it in this role.
Part of our agenda today was to review all of the committee role descriptions and update them. Because each year we're supposed to transition from one role to another, so everybody has sort of a participates in the different jobs. Although we don't always do that, and I'll admit myself, I've never been treasurer, and if possible, don't ever want to be. So some roles are a fit more for one member than another. So, you know, we're not opposed to having people stay in a role or avoid a role. Usually a new member takes the clerk's role because it's a really great way to come up to speed. And when you're taking minutes at the meeting, it becomes really clear to you what your questions are. And so you can learn a lot in that process. Catherine is our treasurer, Hester is our clerk, and Bob has been in charge of the property tax relief. Each job has, I would say, about an equal amount of work involved, except maybe the intake job is more. Lucy has been in that role for several years and has done, it's incredible what she's contributed to the committee and also to the community, that people can really know that we're there for them. Does anybody else have any questions, or do you have any questions for us that you want to ask? Otherwise, we'll Nothing for now? Okay. All right. I think we're going to move on with the meeting. The next thing on our agenda was to consider returning to in-person meetings. And we've been doing Zoom meetings because of COVID. And one of the, I'll just give my feedback first, and then I'd love to hear from everybody else. One of the great things about the Zoom meeting is that the attendance can be greater, because if you're out of town, which happened for Lucy recently, you can still attend the meeting. And I think that that's a reason that Zoom meetings are advantageous. On the other hand, some of you I've actually never met in person. No, that's not true. Actually, at this point, I have met all of you in person.
No, not me, not me.
Really?
I don't
I
think so.
feel like I've,
Talked about it.
oh
but-
my goodness. Okay. I feel like I had already. Well, we talked about it. That's why.
Yeah.
And I think it'd be really nice to see all of ourselves in one room, and have a chance to connect that way and collaborate with for this particular committee. So I'm in, what I would like to do, if I got to choose, would be to have a couple of Zoom meetings a year where attendance might be a lot more of a key. For example, when we're around the annual appeal, for example, might be a good time to make sure that we are all together. And I don't feel like we have to schedule it, but it's just that each month, when we look ahead to the next couple of meetings, we might pick one where we meet by Zoom, just to be sure that we get all the input that we want. And otherwise, I'd love to get back to in-person meetings. I do have a question for Shannon that has to do with recording the meetings, because I know with Zoom it's easy. But if we meet in person, does that require any other coordination?
If you meet in person, I would say that your meetings probably wouldn't be recorded. Because it does require additional coordination. You could put in a request to Minuteman Media Network, but I would say it's more unusual for them to do a morning meeting versus like them doing the select board meeting that's at 6 o'clock. But you could always have them hybrid, with the understanding that you all would be attending in person. And then that still means that if you had a resident that wanted to join on Zoom, they could, and your meeting would still be recorded that way.
So if we do the hybrid meetings, and I have a little bit of experience with this through work, it can be very difficult for people who are attending by Zoom to hear the conversations in the room because of the placement of microphones and the video. Like sometimes there's a chair with a microphone set up, and whoever speaks goes to that chair, which is cumbersome for us to do it that way. And I'm not sure I don't want to make it sound like I think the recordings are required or even important. I mean,
Yeah, I wasn't gonna say that, but I don't know how many people are going online and watching the Hugh Cargill
Hugh Cargill
meeting
meetings.
recordings. But I will say we used, if you used the select board room as your in-person meeting space, which I think would probably be preferred for me, because it's across the hall. We used the hybrid setup in there last night for the select board meeting because it was Carlisle's town meeting. So Minuteman Media Network couldn't be there to record us. And I don't think we had any issues.
Oh, good.
We
Okay.
weren't having people on Zoom saying like, oh, we can't hear you, or people messaging me that they couldn't hear us. And there were a lot of people in the room last night, especially at the start of the meeting. So I think that the technology is getting better, but I do hear you. I know when we used to do the chairs breakfast hybrid, which we are doing again this year. When I was first doing it hybrid with you guys, everyone on Zoom was having issues hearing the people that were in person. And so I do know that moving back to hybrid, I did ask Minuteman Media Network if they would staff the meetings just as peace of mind. But I think that for your group, I don't foresee it being an issue. And we have like a better setup in the select board room now than what we used to have.
Okay.
One thing I would ask about is if we do in person, and I think it's a great idea. But summer, we don't all know our summer plans, and it's highly likely that, you know, a couple of us will be someplace else on the meeting date, and we will have to do a Zoom. So I would say summer is a challenge to get 5 people together.
I second that. I agree.
Yeah, thank you, Lucy.
So maybe we start in September or something, you know.
I think there are a lot of committees that do that. I know there are even some, it's not really possible for your committee because you help people on a monthly basis, but there are some committees in summer that take August off or something like that. So I think if you just wanted to do Zoom meetings in the summer, that's not a big deal.
Are we allowed to have executive meetings without having had a public session meeting as a regular, not as like an emergency situation?
So just like an executive session meeting? Yeah.
Hmm. So that's a consideration also. I'd have to look at our calendar of the things we do each month during the year. But that might be an option as well, is to have June, July, and August be executive session Zoom meetings, but not public meetings. And then September through May, in-person meetings, something like that. What are other people's thoughts about in-person?
Wasn't, as my understanding, you still had to have a public meeting and then go right into the executive? Is that true? That's what I
correct,
remember.
Bob. You technically just have to open the meeting and make a motion to move into executive session.
Yeah.
But you don't need to take up any new business or something like that in public session before moving to executive session.
I'm for the plan to start in September. That sounds good to me. Start in-person meetings. I think we'll all work better if we know each other better.
I agree.
I agree.
And we're not allowed to meet socially as a group. I thought, wouldn't it be to have a nice dinner party together on our porch, and we're not allowed to do that. So it's important that we see each other in person.
You can do that.
I thought we weren't allowed to.
No, you're allowed to do that. You just can't
talk
make
about it.
any decisions about the committee. Of course you can do that though.
Yeah,
That's
I think
right.
Elizabeth was nervous that if 3 of us got together, and we did try to do that, not to, you know, solve a problem, but, you know, we're just very careful not to.
Yeah, no, you could. You just wouldn't want to talk about your committee work, but you totally could.
Right. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I think that was the idea of getting together with new people interested in the committee. I was concerned that if we did that, we were talking about the committee. So I'm a super rule follower, and I know sometimes I'm pushing a rule that probably doesn't need to be pushed.
The prior years, there have been social gatherings too for the committee, so it's not
I know.
something new.
If we ever get caught on a street corner together, we'll be in big trouble. But we'll be watching.
Throw you in jail.
So I think I'm hearing everybody would like to do the in-person meetings starting in September.
Yeah.
And then we can just, as we go along, decide if there's a meeting that would be better served as a Zoom meeting. I'm not sure I want to do the hybrid meetings. It's kind of logistical challenge to me anyway. But okay, so Shannon, would that can you just put us on the select board's meeting room starting in September?
Yeah, I can do that.
Awesome. All right. Thank you. We don't have to take a vote for that, do we?
No.
Okay. All right, so next on our agenda was to review and update our committee role descriptions, and I think we're gonna wait on that. Mostly because the background of Julie and Kristen and Jill would really serve us well as input to the process. And so I feel like waiting for one of you to join us would make a difference in our definition of the roles and particularly the intake role. We do need to make a transition to new roles, so I do want, when we talk about if we putting this, I'll put this on the agenda for next month, but I would like us to think about which roles we would be willing to do as a new role for the upcoming year. And Lucy and I have talked a little bit about the intake being a two-person because it's a lot. It'd be nice for that to be while you're still on the board, Lucy, because we will have a lot of questions. Okay, so we'll do, I will send out for the meeting next month, the existing descriptions. I think it'd be really helpful if each of you sends me your edited, updated description. And that way everyone will have a chance to look at both before the meeting. I think will be a lot more time effective if we've looked over each person's individual changes, and then we can talk a little bit more about it. And then maybe the month or two after that, the meeting or one after that. Actually, this might be something we can do in September as our first in-person meeting. It might be nice to have everything on the table, all the papers and yeah, okay. So I think between now and our September meeting, we'll focus on editing our own roles, sending them around, choosing a new member for the committee, and then I'll put it on the September agenda to update our roles. Okay. Okay, so next is our property tax relief update. Bob?
We have no new applicants. We did get one application, but they were just kind of jumping the gun, I think. They're already on the tax relief list that we have, and they just wanted to make sure that they weren't forgotten. So well, we thought it was a new applicant on review. We found they were on the list already. So I know Shannon's going to be sending those out soon for the new fiscal year 2025. So we've got to get this settled now to the amounts and so forth at this meeting. So, but we have no new applicants. We did have last month, but we've approved that one already.
So for Kristen and Jill and Julie, the property tax relief fund is administered by the Hugh Cargill Trust. And I think we have 60-ish, 63 or so.
57 this month
57. Okay.
went out in this month.
Yeah.
And during our public session, the person whose role is property tax relief will let us know if there's been new applicants or if there are applicants that are no longer receiving the property tax relief. But the confidentiality of those folks that we support is maintained. And then in our executive session, if we have a new applicant, we'll review their the criteria for qualifying for the support. And then each year we review the application and actually we can just move right into that now. The property tax relief application is mailed and then returned to us once a year at this time of year, although people can apply anytime. But we send it out to those who received support last year to remind them. And the criteria, and I think we should probably call up the form. The criteria for the application, usually, so the criteria for the application is the assessed value of the property and the income of the household. And we usually lag by a year the circuit breaker guidelines. And so if we can, Shannon, I don't know if that's something you can put up, or I might be able to share.
What are you looking for?
The property tax relief
The
application.
application? Yeah.
Yeah, so we can update it.
1 second. All right. You see that?
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm back.
So this is so the assessed value of 971,200 was the median in 2022. Is that correct? The
That,
median.
there was 23, I think.
23, yeah.
Oh, yes, of course, 2023. Yes. Okay. Do we know the median? So the current circuit breaker amount, is that the 20, what is it now?
Yes. What, yeah, right. These figures are based on the circuit breaker, which is part of the senior means tax exemption, which is not related to this at all, except the circuit breaker gives some guidelines which we've generally followed. So this, like in terms of the property tax, would proposing to go to 1,169,500.
Oh, my God. What? Say it again? 1 million.
Yeah.
1,169,500.
Good heavens. Huh. Wow.
So this, the difference between the senior means tax exemption and the local property tax relief is that this application is basically we can check their assessed value when they apply, but we just go on their self-reporting on their income, and there is no age limit. So
Right.
several years ago, the town decided that they would raise funds to create additional relief for property taxes. And this is how it's done. What about the income guidelines?
We're right in line. If we don't change anything, we're right in line with that circuit breaker
Okay.
requirements. So I think we should keep those the same and
Okay.
change, I don't know. But we, if we can improve this, we need to get that out because people get nervous because the next tax bill is coming up, soon. So, and this would be
Right.
good for the entire year.
Right. Is there a better time of year for us to be reviewing this? I feel like we're reviewing it a little late.
Well, we normally we would have had it done by April.
Okay.
But I don't know, I was not able to tune in April. We had those 2 or 3
That's
meetings.
right. Yes.
So,
Sorry,
yeah.
Bob. I forgot. Yeah.
Actually, like March would probably be a better time, just have it set for April because we want to send it out.
And
Probably early May.
when do we know the new senior means median limit? When is that set?
That, I think they're working on that right now. for like next year, for the next, like 2025. And,
Okay, so we'll definitely know it by March. Okay,
yeah,
I'm good.
yeah,
I'll check our calendar, our committee calendar, and move it to the March meeting if it isn't already there.
yeah, I think that would be a good time to settle it.
Okay. I
So,
I'm in support of moving, of having it track the circuit breaker, so I'm in support of changing that assessed value.
okay. And, they look at that every year too, so
Right.
it's helpful. I'd like to get this approved if we can, so we can send it out.
Bob, could you repeat what the number is? I didn't write it down before, what we're moving it to?
It's 1,169,500.
Okay.
And Bob, do we know if any of our current any of the people who are currently receiving the tax relief, the property tax relief, do we know if any of them will no longer meet the criteria if we move it by?
Well, we're actually raising it. If we were lowering it, I think it'd be more of an issue.
Yeah,
Well, but so each year, I mean, raising it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to we're suddenly going to have an influx of people, because this number is true for everyone in town. But I do always so Bob has a spreadsheet that has all of the folks who are receiving that support. And I'm just curious if there's anyone there that we know would drop off, because that's usually part of wanting to make sure that we're still supporting people who need the support.
Yeah, that's why, like, each year we send off this letter is the one that, would qualify them. I don't know right offhand how many. I don't think it
Okay.
would affect anybody on the list at this point.
Okay.
We're going through all this property tax, right now it's kind of, I don't know, I feel like it's still up in the air with things. So, but I'm not seeing that we're getting a lot more applicants, but maybe
Right.
they don't know about it, but maybe they're not qualified too. So,
Okay.
everyone who applies is made aware of this. I want you to know. So they all my many people know about this.
that's great, Lucy. That's good.
Anybody else
So,
have comments or questions about the 11695? I think we could make a motion to approve that number.
I move we approve the new number.
Second,
All in favor?
I,
all right.
That's great. Thank you very much, Bob.
Okay, one thing, we're looking on this, we're looking to have a return date by, I think I had spoken with Shannon, by June 3rd. So we
Yeah.
have to hustle to get this out.
Yeah.
Hopefully she can work on it this week, so.
Okay.
Shannon, do you think that, do you need any support from us, maybe to make phone calls, people who have been, we
Yeah,
worry.
I think Bob generally does that. I think I'll be able to
Yeah,
make the changes, get the applications out, and then Bob and I will be in touch in the next couple of weeks about how many I've received back, and when,
Yeah,
we get closer to that date, he'll reach out to them.
Okay, great.
yeah,
Thank you.
I usually end up calling if we haven't heard from somebody or.
I
Great.
get a lot of phone calls. I have a whole list of people called worried about it. So they're aware, deadlines, etc.
so Lucy, did I just understand you right, that you make all those phone calls to remind people?
No. When someone, when I get an applicant for support for any reason,
Yeah,
you know, I always make them aware of this
yeah.
plan.
No.
But no, I don't make any, I don't reach out to bring people in. They have to reach
Right,
out to.
Right, okay.
Hester, generally, I think, I'd say maybe 10 people might not respond, you know, in that order of who are on this list we have, anywhere from like 57, 60 or whatever. So you end up making some calls. I do.
Mhm. So in your calls, Bob, just as we're all thinking about new roles, is you just remind them of the existence of this fund?
No,
You
they
know,
already,
No,
It-
so what happens is this letter goes out to everybody who is currently receiving property
Right.
tax relief.
Right,
And then over the next week or two, there might be, Bob saying, about 10 people that
don't
haven't.
respond, right,
Yep, and then he'll reach out and help
Yep.
them through the process, remind them.
Yep.
Yeah, we don't, and then all year, you know, people can apply.
Yep.
So. That is our agenda for today.
I just have one, this is not discussion, I just wanted to update on the Silent Fund camperships.
Sure.
This year, 13 families applied, 20 children. Between the community chest and the Silent Fund, everyone is getting help. A number of them are getting a full ride to the camps they requested, and others are just getting partial help with it. But the Silent Fund is going to provide about $6,800. And those will go out in June. So just wanted to, it's down from last year. Bonnie Wilbur didn't know why, no reason really why, but everyone who applied did get help through that.
thanks.
Catherine, is there still money in that fund? I'm not looking at the treasurer's report. If we
The
got
money,
with 2 children and I said, get in touch with Bonnie about the camperships, Amelia.
the Silent Fund camperships, there is very well publicized through the schools deadlines and applications. So it's not still, those camperships are not still open.
Okay.
I think that, Lucy, that might make it, actually, maybe, Catherine, you probably know this better, but those families can apply for Hugh Cargill funds instead, correct?
Right.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah.
I did let Bonnie know about them, so in case she can
Great.
squeeze them in on the list. So,
Okay. Any last comments, questions before we adjourn to executive session?
Just like to thank the interested people for being here today.
yes,
Yes, I agree.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for coming.
we'd like to work with all of you.
We would.
Oh, also just real quick, your new select board liaison is Wendy Ravelli. So they assigned liaisons last night. So I would say that is why Wendy is not here this morning, because she wouldn't have even known. But I will, let her know that the meetings are typically, you know, on the second Tuesday of the month, but it is Wendy now.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm going to just, I'll reach out to Terry to thank her. She's been great
Yeah,
support
sounds
for
good.
us this year. Yeah. All right.
Thank you for
Alright.
all of what you do for the
Thanks,
town.
Jill. You.
All right, take
yeah,
care.
thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, we move to executive session for the purpose of discussing individuals or families seeking assistance, the disclosure of which would be a violation of privacy.
Second.
All in favor? It's a roll call vote.
All right.
Aye.
Bye.
All right. See you
Bye,
in a
Shannon.
see you in
Thank
a few
you.
minutes.